Our top story. For a long time, when we talked about pollution in Indian cities, well, we always talked about one city, Delhi. We showed you pictures of India Gate shrouded in clouds of smog today, but turns out that's not the case anymore. India is home to 35 of the 50 most polluted cities in the world. 35 of the 50 most polluted cities in the world. Some of them are even worse off than Delhi. Let me show you what the AQI data is saying. Delhi's AQI is 379, which is in the very poor category. Noida, and I'm talking about today, Noida is 500, which is severe. Lucknow, not very far behind, is in the very poor category at 324. Patna, ladies and gentlemen, is worse than Delhi. Patna is at 478, and Mumbai isn't doing too well either. It's at 301. At one point of time last week, its pollution levels or AQI levels were higher even than Delhi. So pollution isn't a Delhi phenomena, just a Delhi phenomena anymore. It is happening in every major Indian city, including those cities which have always been considered pollution-free. Let me tell you what a recent study has discovered. Take a look at this. Every single Indian is living in areas where the annual particle pollution is higher than what the World Health Organization permits. Every single Indian. 63% of the population lives in areas where the pollution is higher than the Indian government's own standards. So it's not just Delhi air that is getting worse. This is happening across the country, even in rural areas. And breathing in this air is like snow poison. You know that already. Living in Delhi NCR region could shorten your lifespan by 10 years. A Lucknow resident loses 9.5 years. So Lucknow isn't any better. In fact, North India, any place in North India isn't any better. A Mumbai resident loses 3.7 years and a Pune resident loses 4.2 years. Now, to counter this, the government did unveil an action plan in 2019. The target was to reduce particulate pollution by 20 to 30%. Just one problem though, this action plan is non-binding on the government of India. Even if the target is not met, the government faces no accountability. And that is precisely why they are dragging their feet on the issue. I'm quickly going to go across to my guests who are joining me this evening for a chat on what we can do to make India's AQI better, as it were. S.N. Tripathi is joining us from IIT Kanpur. He's a member of the National Clean Air Program. And Jai Dhar Gupta is a member of Right to Breathe. Professor, I'm coming to you first. Where have we failed? It seems in the city where you are coming to us live from, in the city I live in, even a place like Patna and Lucknow, we only focus on Delhi. But the fact is, the entire North India is completely messed up as far as the AQI is concerned. And it seems that in areas where you have the sea, coastal areas like Kerala, like Mumbai, the air quality is not what it should be.
Yeah, you are right that. Thank you for having me over, first of all. You are right that this is a bad time, and meteorology is also playing against us, unfortunately, in a major way. So cold air is sinking in, and that is certainly not allowing the particulate matter and the gases to simply go out. But to say that very little has been done may not be a very correct statement. That, as you mentioned, that since 2019, this large plan has been put in place, and that has put the focus across the country, not only over Delhi. And in 131 cities, a lot of action is taking place in every aspect, be it increasing the monitoring, understanding more about the sources, creating more capacity and creating new institutions, and also mitigating across sectors. And as we speak, our monitoring has increased by two-folds, from about 200 continuous monitoring stations to 350. The understanding of sources from a few cities have gone up to probably 4 dozen of cities, or probably even more. And to augment that, now there are lots of emphasis on bringing new technologies, for example, sensor-based monitoring. We are working with a couple of states, for example, states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and we are putting 1,400 sensors to increase the monitoring. As you know, that new commission on air quality monitoring of Delhi NCR and adjacent region came into being in order to create these new instruments by recognizing the fact that the air of Delhi is not getting polluted only because of the sources within Delhi, but also because of the sources which sit outside. And that fact is basically a recognition of the fact that we need to have an airshed approach to manage their quality. So you have to realize, as you mentioned, that people are leaving the country. That is not the solution. In mid 1950s and then 60s, UK, London has a very infamous smog, and San Francisco has very similar conditions. And people worked, and it took 3 to 5 decades to bring breathable air quality in those countries. And it is even true for London today, that around the clock there is a very strong, very efficient air quality management is in place, and there is a whole team which works to make London's air breathable. But still, there are times when ozone exceeds.
But Professor Tripathi, you have just given me a heart attack. Will we have to wait for the next 30 to 50 years to get better air in Delhi or in Lucknow or in Kanpur? Or for that matter, even in Mumbai? You're saying that all these measures have been put in place. Jai Dhar Gupta, if all these measures have been put in place, as Professor Tripathi says, he's also saying that the government of India has put in an effort to clean the country's air. Why is it that we don't see any results on the ground? Even today, when there is no stubble burning in Punjab, Delhi's air quality is very poor. God save us. Look at, there are five cities and towns in Bihar whose air quality, AQI, currently is worse than Delhi's. Noida is 500. So if all these steps have been put in place and such a lot of effort is being made, why don't we have cleaner air?
Shreya, we have such big problems in our country, and I'm going to name those problems. The first one is poverty. Okay, 60 to 70% of our country does not have access to piped gas or LPG gas cylinders. So when 60 to 70% of your country is burning chulas with wood or kerosene oil or cow dung in the morning and the evening, it doesn't matter which way the wind blows. The second one is literacy or the lack of it. As long as we have an illiteracy problem where people are still chasing roti, kapda and makan and don't care about voting in and or electing a government based on a health or an environment manifesto, things are only going to get worse. The third problem we have is rapid urbanization. As long as we don't have opportunities in rural India, our already unviable cities are going to get more and more unviable. And Shreya, I'm going to check you on something you said. You threw out a fact that 35 of the worst 50 cities are in India. You're absolutely wrong. If we put up more monitoring stations across the GT road of India alone, you will find that 100 of the worst 100 air quality cities of the world are in India. Now let me answer your second part of the question. Where have we failed? Okay, on the part of the government has completely failed. I want to see my sports minister advising children and seniors not to go out and walk or run when the AQI is 300. I want to see a health minister make a statement on how unhealthy and unsafe it is. I want to see an education minister talk to children about wearing a mask to school. There's nobody wearing masks anywhere. There's no need to wear a mask because everything is so good. Let me just remind you, Shreya, we only have three raw materials that go into the human body: air, water and food. Water and food combined, we consume about 8 to 10 liters in a day. We consume 12,000 liters of air in a day. 12,000 liters of air weighs 14 kilograms, more than all the air and all the food and water that we put into our body. Now, where have we citizens failed? Let me answer that. A perfect example is the recently concluded MCD election. No manifesto had air pollution as a promise, and no citizen of my city, Delhi, was asking the government to fix the air pollution problem. That's where we have failed. We fail again and again. We are electing Mr. Kejriwal or Mr. Modi based on whims and fancies and castes and religion. We are not electing governments on the basis of health and environment. And we are the losers. We are to blame. All the citizens of Delhi are to blame. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a Patna or a Calcutta or a Mumbai. We are all gasping for air. And this problem, I'm sorry, Professor, Tiwari or whatever your name is, you paint such a, calm picture like, oh, in 8 years, we've just increased monitoring. Let me give you an example of Beijing, where in 2012, they went up in arms against air pollution, and by 2016, they had reversed it in Beijing by 60%. So in comparison to a Mexico City or a Beijing, I mean, we really look terrible. I mean, we look worse than terrible. I don't even think we made a 1% impact on our pollution levels. In 8 years, if all we've done is install a few monitoring stations, that's really quite pathetic, and it shows really, really poor engagement from the government.
And you're just talking about the recently concluded Delhi MCD elections. I'll also say the winter session. We are at the fag end of the winter session, and all sorts of things have been brought up in Parliament. But has the issue of pollution, not just here in Delhi, but in other cities in this country, been brought up? Absolutely not. It's a non-issue. No one cares. Our politicians don't care. That's very clear. It's only citizens who care. But
Shreya,
we need to demand accountability. We are failing in our duty as well. Jai Dhar,
we are putting so
ahead.
much
I can give
media
you 20
exposure
seconds.
into inaugurating these roads that are running through. Okay, we are really making such a big deal about all these infrastructure and development projects. I really would like to see a balanced approach from my government. And I really want to see more engagement from my citizens. At least the parents of our country should care and engage with this issue. Otherwise, we're all doomed.
You think you have the money, you can run out of this city and probably, go live somewhere else? Again, I say, where will you go? Where will you go? 65% of Indians are living in spaces where the air is toxic, it's poisonous, it's unbreathable. It makes you very, very sick. So you can hide probably, but you can't run from the pollution in your country. And it is not just a Delhi-specific problem. I think that is important for us, all of us, to understand as well. We leave it there for the moment, gentlemen. Thank you very much. This was a very quick chat. We are moving on to the other story we are tracking today.